And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome, one and all, to Coffee Talk. That's right, it is time for Coffee Talk, where we will be having a discussion on what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some snippets from the news and having a little bit of discussion with the people that are able to join us in the live portion. Of course, today is April 15th. That's Monday. And you can find us on at Coffee Talk Live or at Prepper University on YouTube, simultaneously broadcasting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Being joined today by Daniel, sitting in the chair behind me, for those of you who can see. There's Daniel. And for those of you who cannot see, naturally, I do try to read as many of the comments as is reasonable so that you can keep up with the conversation. And you realize I'm not just sitting here talking to myself. So I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of the people in the live portion here really quickly. I see Helter is here today, Dragon, Scale Diesel, Delo, and Ragnar thus far. Brian have all chimed in to say hello. Donna Beaver is here. Oops, where'd she go? Donna Beaver is here. Says, remember, thumbs up, like, and share. Yes, please do if you do not mind. The rumor is it helps with the algorithm. I don't believe that, but I appreciate it. I don't think anything helps with the algorithm. When they target your channel, it's like trying to unlatch a rabid dog. They just don't give up. I see Justin Case has joined us, as well as Fluke Man and Lucky Luciano. Thanks for popping in today. Thanks for throwing your hat in the ring, as it were. Hey, it's the 15th. You know what that means in the United States. It means it's your last chance to crawl to your government masters before they start penalizing you for not filing your taxes. And there is Armored Ghost. It says, oh, there you go, tax day in the USA again already. It's just talking about that. Yes, adding insult to injury because they already know everything anyways. Almost every bit of information you could possibly give them, they already have. All right. And so for the majority of people, all you're doing is confirming what they already know. And I bet they love rubbing it in your face. Oh, wow. Donna says they got 2 notifications for Coffee Talk. Wow. I am shocked. Maybe something changed. I doubt it. I haven't gotten mine yet. And, that's a running gag I've got going now, whereby I wait to see when I'm going to actually receive my own notification for my channel, because I'm subscribed to myself and I click notifications. And sometimes it doesn't come in until more than a half hour into the show. And sometimes I never get it. And Stefan is here as well. Glad you could join us. So yeah, it is the tax season, as it were. It is time for them to check and double check to make you confirm what they already know for the most part. And if there is a discrepancy, it's usually something that's wrong on their end, and they graciously give you back pennies on the dollar of what they took from you. And Scale says they got a notice half an hour prior. Excellent. I'm glad some people did get notices, because as you are well aware, many of you, there is a big problem with that, with people getting notifications on videos, on lives, and everything else that I do. They don't always get them in time, and they miss the live portion. If they're interested in watching the live portion, of course, you can always catch it after the fact, because it should be saved on the in the archive there. So yeah, the IRS, which those letters can also be found in the word irresponsible, which they often are with your tax money. Unfortunately, you've got an organization that takes money from you by force, gives it to another organization that spends it on things that you would not approve of, that you have no say in whatsoever, and has practically no oversight to speak of, so that they can strong arm you any way that they possibly can. And I haven't seen anyone try to challenge that organization since Ronald Reagan was president. He didn't like them. And they used to be worse, believe it or not. They used to be much worse. And he fought against them when he was president. Nature Nerd says delayed notifications. Yeah, it's just one of those things that they do to mess with you, like giving you those unsuitable for monetization strikes that I get almost every day. Or here's a good one, when they tell you that they've determined that your video is made for kids. And I was like, do you see anything here that's made for kids? But then you can't be found in searches when they do that. You can't be found in searches. But as we trickle in to those, what should be one of the big news stories, and actually not, and it happened coincidentally right during the middle of the broadcast on Friday, and somebody had mentioned in the comment section, I forget who it was specifically, hey, this is going on right now, and that would be Iran attacking Israel with drones and rockets, more than 300 of them. Good luck finding a media story talking about this subject. There's not very many. There's much out there. As a lag, not YouTube causing the problem. Possible. That is possible. Who knows for sure? And you see the lag here. Hopefully nobody's experiencing the lag, but it still has not opened up the news page. It still hasn't opened it up. Here it comes, I hope. You see the delay there? It's more than a minute, and that shouldn't happen. That should not happen. And now I'm getting a connection lost warning. I think they do it on purpose. I really do. I don't recall having this kind of trouble when I was on stream. And that is a CNN article. I think it's okay now. I think it's working now. CNN article. And these delays make no sense whatsoever. It says, why Iran attacked Israel and what comes next. Israel overnight on Sunday brought with it a new phase of tension, uncertainty, and confrontation in the Middle East. Iran launched the unprecedented attack. Really? Like Iran doesn't do this kind of stuff all the time? Just saying. In response to suspected Israeli strike on the Iranian consulate in Damascus, Syria earlier, marked a new chapter in a discord between the two states that percolated for years. It bounced and I read it wrong. Percolated for years and has spiraled since Israel declared war on Hamas last October. The next steps remain unclear, but Israel is facing pleas from its allies to step back from the brink of open warfare and choose a path of de-escalation, because Lord knows it's worked so well past. The de-escalation and pandering to their neighbors has worked out really well for Israel. And so basically it says more than 370 drones and over 20 ballistic missiles were fired towards Israel in the immense aerial attack overnight. Approximately 350 rockets were fired from Iran, Iraq, Yemen, and Lebanon, according to the Defense Forces spokesman Daniel Hagari. 90 projectiles were intercepted by Israel's aerial defense systems and its allies, which would be the United States and the United Kingdom, by the way, with only a small number reaching Israeli territory. And that's pretty much all you can find on the subject. That's pretty much it. No one is really talking about this. And you would think that would be the top news story this today. Again, this happened Friday and a lot was revealed over the weekend. No, it's barely a blurb in the news. And that is a big deal because it opens up Iran for being directly involved in whatever's going on out there. And since the United States and Great Britain are also out there, it opens the door for open warfare in Iran between the United States and its allies, and the United Kingdom and its allies, and Iran, which will pull other parts of the Middle East into it. And we'll end up with another Iraq and screw it up and leave it all open ended when we walk away because we don't understand their concept of warfare. As was put during the Vietnam War, the reason the United States basically ultimately lost in Vietnam was because they were playing chess while the Vietnamese were playing checkers. For them, it's absolutely a war of attrition. They are an analogical thought society based in tribalism with a concept of honor and shame, something that you don't find in the West. So, yeah, it's absolutely a war of attrition. They will sacrifice, and I believe it was actually, was it Pol Pot, the leader? Correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm thinking of the wrong guy, who was the leader of the North Vietnamese during the Vietnam War, who said he didn't care if he sacrificed 25 soldiers to every one American as long as he got it done. Somebody can let me know. Nature Nerd, is it coming up? There we are. Says Abraham Lincoln created the IRS after the Civil War when the country was in lots of debt. Then the taxes went away after 10 years, and income tax wasn't a thing until after World War II. Yeah. And it, the income tax and the tax on homes and things like that, a lot of the taxes that were introduced during and after World War II were supposed to go away and never did. It never went away. Armand says tax code is partially a racket, inflate work for a lot of lawyers and accountants. Armand said, okay, I read that. Sorry, it's skipping a little bit. Just in case says communication is glitchy. Also, you're breaking up. Yeah, they're messing with me again. You would think I have like a million viewers on here, and they're trying to keep me from getting a message out. It's not a big channel. It's not a huge channel here. Nature Nerd says UK, US, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Jordan all work together to shoot missiles down. Kind of a miracle. And Nature Nerd says TLDR News is a good news channel about these conflicts around the world. And here is Cruising joining us, and he reminds me Pol Pot was Cambodia. Yeah, and they killed everybody with a degree, right? That was when they went out and they killed all the educated people in Cambodia. Yeah, I got them mixed up. I thought I might be mixing it up. Thank you, Cruising. It's hard to remember it all, guys. I do try, but it's hard to remember them all. But this is nothing new, no big surprise. Oh, I can't believe it. Iran's involved. Are they really? At least they were open about it this time, and then had the nerve to tell the US and the UK to mind their business. Stay out of it. Stay out of it. You know they won't. Empty threats. And, it's only a matter of time, not making predictions because it might not happen. Only a matter of time before it's full on boots on the ground and it looks like Operation Desert Storm out there again. And we have 500,000 people in the National Guard with 20-25% of them claiming now to be conscientious objectors. This isn't what I signed up for. Well, what did you join the National Guard for then, bonehead? What did you think was going to happen? You just collect a check and stuff your face in at barbecues and stuff at the base every other weekend, or what did you think was going to happen? Cruising says, not sure about Cambodia. The Red Guard was a group of Chinese students that murdered teachers and academics in China under Mao for not being communist enough. Yeah, that's right. That was also partially alluded to in the movie The Red Violin with Samuel L. Jackson. Red Violin, excellent film. And that is showcased when the violin, because it follows the history of a violin through the ages, and it ends up in China at one point. I thought that was actually an interesting point, sidetracking down to the next bunny hole here, that during the Olympics, when it was held in China, they showcased a Chinese classical pianist when 50 years ago, they'd have hung that guy. for being able to play a Western instrument. No kidding. And how much China has flipped the script so quickly so that they could make as much money as they have. Thank you, Cruising. Says Vietnam's leader was Ho Chi Minh, of course. The trial named him features in most of those era war movies. Okay, Ho Chi Minh. I couldn't remember. And Nature Nerd says, I bet Iran was originally planning war, but their missiles got blocked and they pretend like they didn't want war. Well, they all pretend. It's all an act. It's all an act, and they all hate each other out there, and they're all barbaric about how they conduct themselves. It's absolutely brutal. And then people sit here in the United States, oh my God, you're supposed to love her. You're supposed to do this, and you need to boycott, and you need to go over there and make them stop. And what do you think? How do you think that looks? What do you think that looks like? What do you think war is? People with no worldly experience whatsoever have no idea. And again, if those people were to come here and take over tomorrow, you'd be the first one on the chopping block. These kids have no idea what they're talking about. Carrick has joined us today. Thank you. And Sven says that no one should trust America. We lie about and to everyone. Well, in all fairness, though, that's pretty much every country. The difference with America is we happen to be one of the bigger ones. So when our government lies to people, it's more far-reaching. But every government does that. They all do it. Again, like I said, it's the larger governments that leave the biggest footprint when they're the ones that are putting spin on things. But yeah, not denying what you're saying, but keep in mind that's most countries. Jump to that's viral now. That's viral now. As this article, this is the top news right now. What's about to come up on the screen, and whereas I had suggested actually the attack from Iran should have been the top news, this is what's top news. And I had talked for a segment on Friday because I'm offended by how stupid they must think we are with this. As I pop up now, incredible, absolutely incredible here. And I'll read a couple more comments here really quickly. I'll try to, because now it's connectivity issue. And Armored Ghost says Californian response to Middle East conflict is to block traffic and pretend you're heroic. Yeah, go to the Middle East and try. And Megan is here, says they made it to alive. Yes, you did. I'm glad you could. Glad you could make it. And Keisha is here, says popped in to say hello. Hope you're doing all right, Keisha. For those of you who are not aware, and if you don't mind, Keisha, she has indicated that she is ill. She is very ill, and she used to be more regular, but has not been able to. So I hope you're doing better, Keisha. Again, that's viral now, and it says the gun show loophole is coming to an end thanks to Biden. Here's what that means for unlicensed gun dealers. On May 24, 2022, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos opened fire at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, I'm not going to read this part. We want to get on to what it is they claim they have done, because they're going to, this is a very, very one-sided article, as most of them are, and they're trying to open it up, not disrespect what happened in high school, but they are trying to hit you in the soft spot. They're trying to hit you in the feels before they talk about what they've done here, which is the bill. President Joe Biden signed into law the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, a gun safety, mental health, and school safety bill that will help prevent gun violence. The bill effectively enhanced background checks for buyers under 20 users, cracked down on gun trafficking, funded community violence intervention. That's a waste of money. Invested in mental health services and provided school safety funding. They threw money at the problem. Okay. Now, what they're alluding to is this new bill that has been passed. They just off on last week, and that's at this one, or is this one? They're really digging in here, talking about now they're closing the gun show loophole. I'm trying to get to that paragraph. Closing the gun show loophole that allegedly allowed for guns to be sold by unlicensed people to individuals who had no background check at gun shows, which does not happen. I'll tell you right now. It says historic step in the Justice Department's fight against gun violence, and touted it as a motion that will save lives. Under this regulation, it will not matter if guns are sold on the internet, at a gun show, or at a brick and mortar store. If you sell guns predominantly to earn profit, you must be licensed and you must conduct background checks. That's what this new law is allegedly supposed to do. This has been in effect for decades. It's been in effect for decades. Anybody who's been to a gun store or been to a gun show for the last several decades is aware of this. You had to be a licensed dealer at a show. You have to be a licensed dealer to sell things through the internet. And I believe it's UPS is the only one that'll ship that stuff, and to only certain states. I could be wrong there. And you have to be a licensed dealer to sell firearms at a show, unless you are selling to a dealer, not to another individual, which is not permitted at a show. Every show I've ever been to had law enforcement. Every show I've ever been to, they ran a background check on you in order to make a purchase. Okay? These are laws that have already been in effect for decades, and they're sitting there pretending like they've done something new for the idiots. Quite frankly, I've said it a million times. Most people are not that smart. And there are those in activism, in politics, and in media who prey on the fact that most people are not that smart. And this is the kind of stuff that they do in politics. They pass a law that mirrors a law that already exists, that itself mirrors a law that already exists. Nothing has been changed. Nothing. And here we are. I just got my notification. Here it is. I am live. We are 23 minutes and 4 seconds in, and I just got my notification that I am live. Thank you, ScrewTube, for letting me know. At least it's not a half hour gone by yet. Maybe some people can catch up. Anyways, it irks me to no end to see this being done, because there are a lot of people in the United States that have no understanding of how any of it works. They've never bought a firearm. They've never bought ammunition. They've never been to a gun show. They have never been in a gun store. They've never been on a shooting range. They have no idea how any of the rules and regulations work. They have no idea how this works. And they have no idea that those have been rules in place for decades. No one is going to a gun show and setting up a table and selling guns without a license. It cannot happen. And no show would allow it because they would lose their license. They cannot allow it. And there is law enforcement. Every show I've ever been to has had a law enforcement presence. Every show. So what loophole is being closed? The invisible loophole that the government and activists have convinced many American people that exists, and it does not. There is no freaking loophole. You can make the straw man argument. Joey sold it to Billy Bob. That's not a gun show. That's not a gun store. That's not an online sale. All right. And I guarantee you that when you do sell legally a firearm and you mail it to a state authorized to receive it, like, for example, I don't think you could do that in New Jersey. They know what's in there, and they know you're authorized to ship something. UPS isn't going to make that mistake and get in trouble. What freaking loophole has been closed by passing a law that mirrors laws that already exist. I don't understand. Yeah, and Cruising being funny here says, be thankful top news isn't a report of people's sex positions and preferences. Don't think there aren't stories about it that are floating around that I have to sift through when I look for stories for this. And Keisha says, been doing chemo. It's not pleasant, makes me sick, but I'm doing okay. I can imagine it does make you very sick. I'm sorry to hear that, Keisha. I know. Fluke Man says, should we permanently break our legs to avoid draft? I'm sure we all love our countries, but is Israeli-Palestine conflict and Russia-Ukrainian war worth our lives? Men can't say my body, my choice. No, they cannot. And even though they do not currently have, they don't currently have a draft open, you still have to register for the draft. And you will be conscripted. Make no mistake. Every war that's ever been official, pretty much, except for when we invaded Iraq, because they didn't need to conscript anybody for it. They just threw all the National Guard over there. There's conscription because the government knows people don't want to fight and they've got to force them. There are people who want to and will join, but for the most part, it's conscription time. We're going to force you. I need volunteers. You, and you. That's how it works. And Chris says it's not going to do anything since when do criminals buy guns legally? Criminals get guns however they can. Exactly. And just in case, there's absolutely nothing new there. And Nature Nerd says Colorado tries to ban semi-automatic weapons against the Supreme Court. Colorado is an outdoor rugged state. Doubt the people want this. Correct. And Helter says after this, they'll have time to focus on other problems that aren't real, like Bigfoot and climate change. Well, I don't know. They haven't gotten around to Bigfoot yet. Maybe they can conscript Bigfoot. Let's arm Bigfoot and send him to the Middle East or to Ukraine. Send him to the Ukraine. He's got fur, so, it's colder there. Cruising says, last time they purchased at a show, they refused to respect my concealed license, which lets me leave with the weapon at the time of sale. I had to go stand in line 7 days later with everyone else. Yeah. See, it's not easy. It's not easy. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. And Keisha made a donation to the channel. Thank you very much, Keisha. Always appreciated. Daniel appreciates you. I don't know if you saw Daniel is sleeping in the chair. Are you there, buddy? He's ignoring me. Daniel's ignoring me, but thank you, Keisha. Goes a long way. Lucky says they bought a 9 from the gunny in the recruiter office. No paperwork there. Really? And Dragon says making it harder for law-abiding citizens to buy firearms does nothing to stop crime. Correct. You're hindering law-abiding citizens, but as I'm sure most of you are aware, laws are for the law-abiding because criminals don't follow the law. That's part of the reason why they're criminals. They do whatever the hell they want. That's the issue. They do as they damn please, dealing with it. And we could deal with it more efficiently if we weren't hindered by our own government at every possible opportunity. It really gets sickening. It really gets sickening to have to deal with it over and over and over again. And to have to be subjected to the concept of a death by 1,000 paper cuts. On and on and on. Every day, a new regulation, a new law, a new fee, a new fine, a new tax, a new something. Every day. There's something else to whittle you down and normalize it for the up-and-coming generation who doesn't understand why you're so upset. Well, the idea is if you don't know what you're missing, you can't miss it, can you, Junior? And that's the thing. They don't know what it was like to have the elbow room that we had growing up. And we don't know what it's like to have the elbow room that our grandparents had growing up. And that's why now, as an older person, I understand why, when I was young, old people were cranky, because they were already having their rights stripped away even then. Now I'm at that point where it's like, good Lord, leave us the hell alone. That's all most people want. Most people are not going to cause problems, but they need to be and deserve to be left the hell alone. We don't need Big Brother. We don't need oversight. We don't need every moment of our lives regulated. We don't need to be chipped, okay? And then you tell us what to do. We don't like 1984. It's a good read, but we don't want to live in that world. We don't want to live in Brave New World either, which it looks like more so where we're headed. Nature Nerd says the US sounds more like Canada every day with more and more regulations. I know. And Canada sets a bad example, as does Australia and New Zealand and these other places, because then the rest of the Western world points and says, see, they made it work. They're happy. And they're not happy. Lie. It's a lie. Fluke Man says, up until around 2016, they were super anti-gun. Growing up in the UK, the mainstream media never ever reported majority of people have been shot who were committing crimes by law-abiding citizens. Exactly. Because there is a narrative there. And Cruising says they've been waiting for a year now to hear you call laws the IEPs of adult society. Yeah, there you go. And that is an individual educational plan for those of you who are not familiar with what an IE is for. It's something that is connected directly with public schools. It's supposed to be a program to help your child if they have learning because they'll pee on anybody for damn it. The bigger the IEP, the more federal money involved. And I just got another warning about connectivity issues, so hopefully we're not skipping here. New York Post article, speaking of wasting money. Speaking of wasting money, ladies and gentlemen, and hopefully we're doing all right here, because you never know. And I try to keep talking just in case everybody can keep hearing me. Chris says, the more you let the government take, the more they will. Exactly. And people, they don't know how to fight back, or they're tired of fighting back. They see so much futility in it, and they get sick and tired of fighting. And I can understand that too. You get worn out fighting something on and on and on and feeling like you're never getting anywhere with it. A New York Times article, we're going to jump to New York here, talking about Mayor Eric Adams again. Adams plans to give New York City bureaucrats $1 billion in raises as he pushes program cuts over the migrant crisis, or as I like to put it, the migrant industrial complex. He is giving raises, and remember, I haven't even read this article yet, but you can already see where this is going. He's cutting money from the fire department, from the police, from the schools, from sanitation, from water and sewage, from everywhere he can. Pouring that money into migrant shelters, into catering, into gift card programs for migrants that rival people that are on welfare in the state. If you're on welfare for a family of four, you get half of what a migrant does now. Incredible, right? So, but oh no, when it comes to salaries, that's a different story. Reading into the article, Mayor Eric Adams might be crying poverty over the Big Apple's migrant crisis, but that didn't stop quietly, pushing through a $1 billion raise package for 10,000 New York bureaucrats. It includes 3% wage hikes per year for the past 3 years, another 3% increase in May 24th, followed by a 3.25% hike in May of 2025. Under Adams' order, managers and non-union staffers making $100,000 will see their pay increase to $112,550 next month and $116,208 the following year. Anyone earning $200,000 before the agreement, First Politico would have their salaries surge to 225,101 in May and 232,417 next year. The affected staffers, which include deputy mayors, agents, commissioners, and other top honchos, also scored a lump sum bonus of $3,000. They could additionally receive yet to be determined pay raises at department heads' discretions. Non-union employees also now qualify for up to 12 weeks of paid family leave. Wow! And saw their paid parental leave double to 12 weeks under another Adams order in February, a policy change that officials estimate will cost taxpayers $2.5 million annually. That's incredible. And they have the breakdown here. These are retroactive. 3% retroactive to May 24th, 2021, retroactive to May 24th, 2022, and then 3% to 23, and 3% additional effective to 24. And what that means, and I'm sure a lot of you understand retroactive pay, that means that the raise goes back in time. So if you were employed in 2021, they owe you for the last few years 3% of whatever your salary was that you'll get in a lump sum. That's insane. Oh, but New York is broke, and the migrant crisis is killing them, and they need more federal tax dollars. Incredible. Incredible. Nature Nerd says anyone else would be fired for misappropriation of funds. Yeah, if it was a corporation, a business, they might hammer them. It says states and cities can get away with misappropriation of funds more than a country's leader can. Maybe cities need a parliament system on a local level so they can remove these bad mayors or governors. Well, a lot of places have their city or town councils that they try to do that with, and you've seen that with Henyard, that mayor in Illinois that's under fire, that's under FBI investigation, that the city council has voted to investigate her, and she vetoes their findings, and then they're back to square one. So yeah, there are supposed to be checks and balances in place, but they don't necessarily always work. Dragon says, not surprising considering that politicians always vote to give themselves more money and tell the citizens to live with within their means. They should slash their income to pay for the illegals. Yes. And Fluke Man wants to know if anyone heard about the multiple stabbings in an Australian mall. If I'm not mistaken, they released the suspect's age, but not his name. I smell a rat. Yeah. And that does happen in a lot of these places where guns are supposed to be illegal. You hear about multiple stabbings. I've seen many instances of that. That happens actually a lot in China. And some people will get you good. If you know what you're doing with a knife, you can do a lot of damage. You'll hear, I remember an article a while back about some 40-something people being stabbed on a subway in China, with maybe as many as 20 of them dying. You can be as brutal with a knife if you know what you're doing as you can, even with a semi-automatic rifle. And Justice says a bishop was also stabbed in Sydney during a live service. Really? If people want to hurt you, they'll find a way to do it, is the bottom line. That's the bottom line. So you can take away all the weapons. Someone will find a way. If they are that deranged or that mentally ill or whatever it is, they will find a way. Taking the tools away does not work. It never has. All you do is alienate everybody else who's honest when you take away the tools. And that's politicians know this. They know this. They're playing a game. But there we are, crying for money, saying the migrant crisis of illegal aliens in New York is crushing the entire state, begging for federal dollars, slashing money left and right, and then giving away $2.1 billion in raises and bonuses to officials that he rubs elbows with, basically. just take care of the people that actually matter, because and this is a copy. I'll put it up here for you can see. That is the official memorandum from the office of the commissioner, explaining the premiums. Must be nice. I wish I would do something like that. I need all the money I can get. And then Chris says facts. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. As we shift around here, because you want to talk about incompetence, here's a local story. This one comes from Georgia. You want to talk about incompetence, and you want to talk about misappropriation, and you want to talk about political leaders who are taking advantage of your tax money, because of course it's not their money. So what do they care how they spend it? You know, a politician, a lawmaker, should be a good steward of what they've been trusted with. Your money taken from you by force, but still you should have the ethics to do the right thing with it, and they don't. And this story is going to reflect that. And I believe this is Douglas County, I want to say. Douglas County, Georgia. Very interesting what's going on here. And we're seeing way too much of this and not enough being done about it. One more here from Chris. They said the rich don't care about our rights. They have security to protect them at all times with, you guessed it, guns. But guns are bad, remember? Funny how that works. Indeed. Hopefully this will open without interruption. And this is a United Liberty article. Oh, that one popped right up. Excellent. United Liberty article, and the woman that you are looking at in that photo, if you can see, is a judge in Douglas County, Georgia. Title, Systemic Incompetence. First Black female judge fired after robbing the town and blaming racism. Wow, and there she is crying on it. Yeah. In a stunning turn of events, the once prominent judge, Christina Peterson, hailed as a pioneer for her historic role as the first Black female judge in Douglas County, Georgia, finds herself at the center of a scandalous downfall. What began as a promising career trajectory has unraveled into a tale of corruption, incompetence, and abuse of power, casting a shadow over the integrity of the judicial system. What integrity? Don't even get me going. You know, that's a huge pet peeve of mine. And this is part of the reason why. This is part of the reason why. Yeah, you are fired, Judge Peterson, fired. So what's going on here? And there she is crying again, boo-hoo, crying through her 2-inch long press-on eyelashes. Peterson's ascent to the bench was marked by optimism and celebration. Yeah, by the media and politicians and activists, because she was a diversity hire. As she shattered barriers and broke new ground as a minority woman in a predominantly white male-dominated profession. Her election in 2020, amidst the backdrop of heightened social justice movements, symbolized progress and inclusivity in the legal realm. However, her meteoric rise was soon overshadowed by a series of alarming revelations. Well, what were those revelations? What do you think? It was already alluded to. As investigations unfolded, Peterson's tenure as a judge came under intense scrutiny, revealing a pattern of systemic incompetence and flagrant disregard for ethical standards, despite lacking prior judicial experience. Wow. Peterson, yeah, you can see why she got hired. You're hired as a judge, but you have no judicial experience. Peterson brazenly demanded exorbitant salary increases and exploited her position to amass personal wealth, pocketing hefty fees and circumventing established protocols. Peterson's defense strategy relied heavily on her identity as a black woman, attempting to deflect criticism by invoking accusations of racism and sexism. However, her tactics of manipulation and exploitation only served to exacerbate public outrage and undermine the legitimacy of her position. Instead of upholding the principles of justice and equality, Peterson weaponized her identity to shield herself from accountability, which is something that most of these diversity hires ultimately end up doing because they're not suited for the job. The litany of misconduct attributed to Peterson extends far beyond mere incompetence, encompassing a spectrum of unethical behavior and abuse of authority, from needlessly delaying legal proceedings to arbitrarily incarcerating individuals. Really, Peterson's actions reek of hubris and entitlement, betraying the trust of the community she was sworn to serve. Is anyone surprised? One more paragraph here. Peterson's tenure as a judge was marked by a reign of terror, characterized by vindictiveness, spite, and a blatant disregard for the rule of law. Her propensity for intimidation and manipulation cast a chilling shadow over the courtroom, instilling fear and uncertainty among litigants and court personnel alike. Incredible, ladies and gentlemen. And Fluke Man here says, so frustrating mainstream media says black people when clear as day the person of interest is mixed race. They're only saying black because it gives them the advantage. When are people going to wake up? Well, we've talked about that before, Fluke Man. You know, I hate to bust your bust your chops. Again, I'm going to put this on a T-shirt one of these days. Maybe people will buy it. You can wake up the sheeple, but they're still just sheep. So yeah, they wake up to it, but they're still not willing or able to do anything. Mostly unwilling. You can wake up the sheep, but there's you can wake them up, but they're still just sheep in the end. It's unfortunate, but this doesn't surprise me. We've been seeing a lot of this. A lot of these diversity hires have never been suited for what they're doing. They got in for some charisma, perhaps. I didn't think so with this one. I recognized her actually when I saw this story in particular. Let me see if I can back up here. For those of you who can see, you see this right here. That photograph, for those of you who are looking, is actually from a billboard. I remember seeing it when she was running for her office. They're not suited for it. She was obviously hired because of her color and her gender. And then they pretend like this is a historic landmark. Oh God, look, we hired a black woman. Aren't we progressive? And now look at the mess that you're in. It was a mistake because you hired somebody who was unqualified and untrustworthy. And Dragon says, yet another proof that the problem isn't that power corrupts, but that evil people seek power. Yes, I agree with that. They just drop the act and reveal their true colors once they get it. That's right. And Helter says, giving the judge the ability to pocket fees seems like a great way to test integrity. Yes, absolutely. And Chris said it backfired on the idiots. Yeah, and they're all crying. But again, because they are sheep after all, they woke up to what was going on here. Bet you they hire someone just like her. Bet you they throw another angry, vindictive, race-baiting, thieving judge on the bench. Every time anyone had something to say, what happened to that money? Why did you do this? How come you're late for court? Oh, you giving me a hard time because I'm black and I'm a woman. No, we're giving you a hard time because you're not doing the job right. But what the hell do I know? And we see it everywhere. We see it everywhere. What was that community? I read the article about a month ago where the entire city council is now women of color. And Man, they put that on a pedestal. They blew it up. Oh, our entire city council is women of color. So now we have full representation. Really? Are you sure about that? And they're activists. And they're activists. I'm just waiting for that to fall apart. And Chris says, yes, history repeats itself. And then Cruising said the sad part is for every one of these ridiculous hires, there's probably someone out there that's hyper competent who checks all the boxes but has integrity and thus aren't wanted. That's right. That's right. It's unfortunate. It really is. It's incredible. It's amazing how many times I read one of these articles and say it's unfortunate, isn't it? But wait, there's more. There's more. Because corruption abounds. Corruption abounds, not and people in politics. And make no mistake, judges are political. Judges are very, very political. Okay? It goes for activists too. And I'm going to throw you a bone here. I'm going to bring up a story that you'll have to dig to find. This one is way from the bottom of the barrel, but I think you'll get a kick out of it. One more here from Just In Case. It says, what happened to work ethics, being proud of your work and your job? At least even, and I've been here with this, hated my job, didn't like the people I was work with, still did it right because it was my job. And you just do your job right, in my mind. So, yeah, exactly. What happened? Who remembers David Hogg? Not Boss Hogg. Boss Hogg was actually kind of neat. He had ethics. If you remember the Dukes of Hazzard, Boss Hogg actually had a code of ethics. There were lines he would not cross. Okay. David Hogg. Who remembers David Hogg? And he's in the same hot seat as was our judge here a moment ago, because he's no more trustworthy or reliable than any of these other people. And it shows. Easily. Really dig it's from a news agency, the Artist Tree. Artist Tree. Play on words, rather. Attention is drawn to Hogg for spending almost half of his PAC donation funds on non-essential items such as DoorDash and Mark Elias. Or Elias. That's a fashion designer, right? I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong. David Hogg, known for his activism following the you-know-what shootings. I hesitate to name it because, I am on ScrewTube after all, and they'll give me a hard time, has faced criticism for the spending habits of his Leaders We Deserve PAC, which he is associated with. The PAC raised over $3 million, but reportedly spent a huge portion, $1.4 million, on travel expenses, political consultant, legal fees. This included payments to Mark Elias, a figure linked to the Clinton campaign and the Trump-Russia investigation. Oh, I'm sorry. Why did I think Mark Elias was a clothing dealer? It sounds like it, doesn't it? Like Ralph Lauren, Mark Elias this fall. The PAC's stated goal is to support young progressive candidates, but a considerable amount of money went towards internal expenses rather than directly aiding campaigns. For instance, over $83,000 in legal fees were paid to Elias Law Group. This has raised questions about the PAC's priorities and the effectiveness of its support for emerging progressive voices. Hogg has been vocal about his political ambitions, aiming to grooming young candidates for federal and state offices. However, the PAC's spending patterns, with substantial sums going to internal costs and limited support for actual candidates, have drawn criticism and skepticism about its impact on the political landscape. Brett Bart's reporting highlights discrepancies between the PAC's stated mission and its financial allocations. A large portion of donations come from small donor contributors, which has led to concerns about transparency and accountability within the organization. particularly regarding how donor funds are utilized. The scrutiny surrounding the Leaders We Deserve PAC reflects broader concerns about the role of political action committees, their financial practices, and the effectiveness of their efforts in shaping political outcomes. I want to know how much was spent on DoorDash, because it doesn't give you a number. How much was this guy spending on DoorDash? Wasting contributions. As I catch up a couple of comments here, Cruising said David Hogg, the most punchable face since Punching Faces. And Cruising also says, personal hatred here. Hogg's work in Florida made my job way harder than it has to be on a day-to-day basis. Of course, for those of you who aren't aware, Cruising works in the public school system in the state of Florida. Helter said the bigger issue is how many Americans actually listened to Hogg and accepted what he has to say as reality. Yeah, and I've heard a lot of rumors about it. I've heard that he wasn't even actually there during the incident in Parkland. He wasn't even there. And that's drawn a lot of scrutiny, but never been fully properly investigated. Let's put it that way. Never been fully properly investigated, and if it was, it's been buried. Like this story was buried. I want to know how much they spent on DoorDash. I mean, they've spent a lot on internals. And the reason that raises a big red flag is because when you're spending a lot of money on internal stuff, then you're paying yourself with that money. You're paying yourself and you're paying your buddies within your own organization. Something that, what the hell is her name? In Georgia, drawing a blank now. She's run for governor in Georgia a couple of times. I could see her face, and I can't think of her name. Because she pays herself for frivolous things out of donations, and she's fallen under scrutiny for that several times. So that brings up a big question mark. I want to know what he paid for the DoorDash. That brings me, that really confuses me. How much did he spend on DoorDash? I'm trying so that I can mention it really quickly, since I'm sure there are probably other people that are curious. But yeah, they're paying themselves with the money. And that brings it into question. Article, it says that it looks like the PAC has only spent $263,000 on campaigns. $1 million in donations, only $263,000 of it has actually been spent on helping anybody with campaigns, and $1.4 million has been spent disbursements to themselves as consultants. This makes more sense, and that is an article from, where did I find this? The Federalist. It still doesn't tell you what they spent on DoorDash. And that Hogg has paid himself $40,000 from the first article. Must be. And Brian said, DoorDash, I get my food in person. Yeah, I know. I can't. I can't pay to have somebody deliver food. We don't eat out anyways, and we don't order food. We cook our own, and I think it's better that way. Personally, I think it's better that way. But with that, we are at the top of the hour, so I will go ahead and start signing off. Again, this is Coffee Talk, and you can find me at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University on YouTube. Simultaneously broadcasting Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter. Please do join me there if you have an X account. One more look at Daniel sleeping in the chair. You okay back there, Daniel? He's ignoring me. That's fine. And of course, fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Special thanks to Keisha, who made a donation here today. Much appreciated. Hope you're feeling better, Keisha. And thanks again to everyone else who was able to join us and join the conversation. Hope you got something out of it. And we will see you again